Oh my god, it's been a minute, huh? Sophomore year has been keeping me busy and, everything that has happened recently. But we're back and officially here to finish this series before the TikTok ban. I'll post another video with more information about that because I genuinely do want to keep doing this, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Right now it's B-Boy time, baby! As per usual, major spoilers ahead for all 6 books in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and an even stronger spoiler warning for the Conference of the Birds for both this video and the next. I'm diving headfirst into the biggest spoiler I could give you for that book, so if you haven't read it and plan to do so, please wait until you finished it before you watch this. Hugh Apiston is a fascinating character, to say the least of it. Believe it or not, he was initially my favorite when I read the first book. It wasn't even because he does all that much initially, I just liked his vibes, which is hilarious to me given that I also completely missed the line that reveals his relationship with Fiona and had to physically backtrack from Hollow City to figure out why their goodbye was so romantic, so clearly I didn't even pick up on his entire character. Don't get me wrong, I still absolutely adore him, he's easily in my top 3, but goddamn did he get so much more complicated after that. In the span of his arc, we probably saw the highest and lowest points he's ever experienced. We saw him struggle with mental illness, with grief. We saw him angry and upset to the point of tears because of the sheer emotional roller coaster he went on in the span of maybe a few months. That wouldn't be all that impressive for a story like this, but Hugh is one of the less important members of the main cast, choosing to skip major events because the story doesn't need him. Not to mention that with the timeline he gives Jacob in Hollow City, he's likely one of the oldest characters we know, having found Fiona all the way back in the 1840s. In the summer this story takes place, his girlfriend of nearly 2 centuries goes missing and he watches as he's the last member of the cast to hold out hope that she's still alive. And when she's finally found, not only do neither of them get an apology from anyone for flat out abandoning her, it's in the middle of a war where the stakes are high enough he could easily lose her again. The day he, Jacob, Emma, and Enoch learn she's alive, he has a panic attack knowing the Whites have her and almost certainly don't have good intentions with her. That night, he's seen drinking his sorrows away, silent in a lively conversation to the point it's easy to forget he was ever in the scene to begin with. A bit concerning behavior for a 16-year-old boy, but if no one else, including Miss Peregrine, was going to question his coping mechanisms, I can't harp on him too much, I don't think. I can't say for certain I'd have a healthier reaction. One thing that's sadly pretty easy to overlook, Hugh doesn't have very many healthy reactions to his own emotions. When Fiona's here and he's happy, he's fine, and for anyone else, he's encouraging and kind. But when it comes to his own feelings, he can be really hard on himself for no apparent reason. He very frequently gets mad at himself for crying in front of the others, and he doesn't seem to like letting the others see him be soft with his partner, getting all huffy and embarrassed when he finds them waiting for him when he's saying goodbye to Fiona. I've seen people suggest it could have something to do with toxic masculinity, having grown up in probably the 1840s and lived a vast majority of his life in different time periods in the past before ending up in 1940 with Miss Peregrine, but I think that requires a much longer video than this one, despite how interesting a topic that would be. Despite his somewhat concerning relationship with himself, he and Fiona probably have the healthiest romance in the entire series, adults included. Not a single source we have implies they've been apart since the day they met. In fact, they all imply the opposite. I suppose when you've been with someone for nearly 170 years, you learn how to have the most functional relationship in your entire story, which is quite impressive given the fact that they never actually kiss on page. Speaking of that though, Hugh may as well be a crack ship in the movie, which is a damn shame when you first notice it, and even worse when you realize they replaced it with an olive of all things. Fiona yells at him about the bees once, and Hugh is snarky to her during the dream sequence, and who is writing these characters? Did they read any of the source material here? Hugh and Fiona would never, literally never. Despite that, Hugh is one of the few characters I actually kinda like in the movie. Milo Parker is fantastic. I genuinely like his character design with the bowl cut and the striped shirt, and the movie decided that Hugh, Fiona, and Millard are all close friends who absolutely roast Horace whenever they can, and that's such a fun dynamic. That and he breaks the fourth wall once, and I always enjoy a fourth wall breaker. Hugh's a fun character who, in my opinion, really sells the point that all creators love absolutely destroying the mental health of ROCs when we get the opportunity to. And even in spite of that and how little I got to talk about this, he never loses the fun older sibling vibe he's always had, at least in my opinion. We always need someone to protect the littles from Enoch and Horace. He just also really needs a hug. Someone please give Hugh a hug. With that though, before January, next will be the love of his life, who deserves the world and so much better than the narrative gave her. See ya!